Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Quinn, and I'm the Vice President of the Meriden Hall of Fame Association. On behalf of our Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome you to our 35th Annual Induction Ceremony. The Meriden Hall of Fame was founded in 1975 to honor prominent living or deceased members of the community or past members of the community who have distinguished themselves over time in their professional and public lives, and in doing so have brought honor to the city of Meriden. Permanent plaques and other appropriate memorabilia pay tribute to the inductees. Currently, the plaques of Hall of Fame inductees are on display at Meriden City Hall. We currently, with our 4 new inductees today, have 124 persons who have been inducted to the Meriden Hall of Fame over the past 35 years. And at this time, I would like to call on the Reverend Dr. John Clark for the invocation.
O God, the twilight gives way to the night, a reminder that much of the world is embraced by darkness. Remind us that the morning will come. We gather as friends of a good cause this special day. We gather as pilgrims on a journey, people of the future no less than of the past. We celebrate the lives of those honored this day, special people who have given hope to countless others, who have gone beyond the nightmare to their daydream, who have put those dreams to work that there might be less pain in the world, that there might be hope for the disadvantaged and promise of a usefulness to anyone. We pray, O God, that the example of these honorees will put all of us in touch with a hope beyond despair and with a tenderness that marks us off as your people and a gentleness that expresses all we are as your people. So do we honor those who through their good efforts have honored you by caring for the least and the last among us and have given us a vision of a brighter world toward which we all aspire. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to recognize several dignitaries who have joined us today. With us today are State Representative Buddy Altabello, from our City Councilors John Thorpe, Hilda Santiago, Bob Williams, Dan Brunet, Brian Daniels, George McGoldrick, Tony Tomasetti, and Dante Bartolomeo. From the Board of Ed, Kevin Scarpati, and from the school system superintendent, Mark Benigni, and if we could give them all a round of applause and thanks for coming. We also have with us today, with greetings from the city, our mayor, the Honorable Michael S. Rhudean.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here again today. This is one of my favorite events. Really, it honors those who've been a fabric of our community and made the city what it is today. There are a lot of people to choose from, but very few are chosen. And today's honorees are really spectacular and outstanding. And I'm happy to say I've had some contact with most of them, and I've heard a lot about the one I haven't had a lot of contact with. So I bring greetings from the city, the Meriden City Council, and the city of Meriden, and grateful recognition of all your efforts on behalf of our city, making us the great city we are. And it'll be my pleasure to shake your hand when you come up and get your award. But congratulations, Rhudean and Maddie and Rob, and posthumously Dr. Giuffrida, for a phenomenal contribution to this city. When we talk about community involvement, we think of these traits: people who are committed, who are loyal, who step up, who make things happen, who make Meriden a better place to be, and you all do that. So thank you so much on behalf of the city of Meriden.
Thank you, Mayor Rhodey. We'll now begin the induction ceremony. This year it's particularly special for me because I have a connection with all 4 of the inductees. Matt Dominello and Rhudean Raye, I've known them each for probably 15 or more years through political ventures. Rob Hyman, I first met in the mid to late 80s when I was working in his cousin's store, both downtown and up in the Meriden Ames Plaza. And Dr. Giuffrida was actually my grandmother's doctor before he passed away. And from what my mother tells me, all of the girls she knew because the family grew up down the street on Carpenter Avenue from my great-grandfather. So it's particularly special to me to have a connection with such four important people, and it is an honor to be here today for their induction. We're going to take things a little out of order, and we're going to start first in the category of law, government, and military, honoring Matthew C. Dominello Sr., and to present the award, his son, Matthew C. Dominello Jr.
First, I'd like to thank the board of the Meriden Hall of Fame for continuing to support and sponsor this event. It's been a great way to celebrate our citizens of Meriden. Dad, I'm honored to be able to introduce you for this award today. Of course, we could write a book about Matt Dominello, his life, family, and all the wonderful things that he's done for everyone. But today I'd like to talk about a few pages in that book. Who is Matt Dominello? He is someone who has served his family and community in so many ways. Many people know him as mayor, deputy mayor, or city councilor, and all the good things that he has done for our community. But did you know that he was born in 1930 to Italian immigrant parents, the youngest of 15 children? He was born either a little before or a little after his twin sister Gloria, depending on who tells the story. At a young age, he sold newspapers on the corner, and he worked in a small market at age 14 to help make his contribution to his family. He graduated from Wilcox with a trade in carpentry. Many people know that he served on the Memorial Hospital Board of Trustees, the Meriden Housing Authority Board of Directors, and is a member of the Meriden Ethics Board. But did you know that he also became a Marine at age 21 and served our country during the Korean War? He has been a member of the Knights of Columbus, past president of the Meriden Civitan Club, and he served as president of the board of the Meriden Wallingford Society for the Handicapped, organizations that help people, especially people with special needs. But it's also important to say that he continues to volunteer as a buddy reader for children at Nathan Hale School. That's who Matt Dominello is. We often see him on TV and in the paper, cutting ribbons or helping someone in need or supporting a community project. But it's also important to know that he worked at Sal's Market with his brother Sal, and then later opened Dominello Superette with our mom. Many of the kids in the neighborhood called him Uncle Matt. Why? Because he treated him so well. He treated him like a father. He treated him like he was his uncle. Some of those kids are adults today, and many of them still call him Uncle Matt. Sometimes I'm out somewhere with him, and I have so many cousins that I'm not sure which ones are my real cousins and which ones are my store cousins. We know that he has served as chairman of the school building committee, responsible for renovations or construction of some of our schools, a strong advocate for education. He was also chairman of the Police Court Complex project in downtown Meriden. But it's also important to know that he still serves as Eucharistic minister at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church. We probably know that he was constituent aide to Congressman Jim Maloney and now for Chris Murphy, setting up camp in the Meriden Senior Center, a strong advocate for our senior citizens. But it's also very important to know that he was married to Helen Pilardi in 1955, two people who always walk side by side to support each other and continue to support each other after being married for 56 years. Yesterday, October 15th, was their 56th wedding anniversary. They have 3 sons, a daughter, 3 daughters-in-law, a son-in-law, and 9 grandchildren. They always taught us to respect others. They taught it and they lived it. As a father, he always taught by example. He is a kind, loving man who is always there when we need him. Some of his grandchildren are here today. joining us from as close as Meriden and Woodbury to as far away as Boston and Detroit. They are here in honor and respect of their grandfather and because they love their grandparents. When their grandchildren were asked to describe their grandfather in a word or a sentence, most of them said, "I can't do that. I have to talk more about Grandpa rather than just a word or a sentence." But we stuck with a word or a sentence, and this is what they said. Jacqueline said, "He is a wonderful person who has many traits, including kindness, being a caring person, and always being respectful to others." Alex responded with, "Family-oriented." Lauren said, "He is a kind-hearted, loving man with a sweet tooth." She pegged it, huh? Sam said, "He is unselfish and goes out of his way to help anyone." Jake responded with, "Perseverance." Zachary said, "He cares about his family more than anything else." Nicholas responded, "Grandpa is selfless." And Michael stated, "The life of the party, whether we needed a jolly old Saint Nick or head chef, mentor, or comic, you were it." And Dad, I'm sure Matthew would say, "We love you." That's who Matt Dominello is. That's the person that we see here sitting in front of us today. We have been blessed to have you be part of our lives. Dad, congratulations. We're very proud of you, and we love you.
At this time, I would like to call on our recipient, the Honorable Matthew C. Dominello, Sr.
Thank you, Michael. I think he broke the microphone on purpose because he figures I won't talk as long. First of all, I would like to thank Mayor Michael Rode, Michael Quinn, John Hogarth, the director of the Senior Center, and all of the Hall of Fame members who have made this possible and who have been so kind to honor me today. So thank all of them. And I was going to also mention my family, but my son beat me to it. But anyway, really, I'm very happy and pleased that all my children, grandchildren, my twin sister sitting back there, nieces, nephews, the whole family. And of course, I can't forget the Red Hatters, because they're right there, and if I do, I'll be in trouble. And they're also here. And of course, my colleagues on the City Council. I'm very pleased that each and every one of you have been able to, councilmen and councilwomen to be, that are here today. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. On a more serious note, first, I would like to sincerely thank my wife, because this day couldn't have been possible without her. She's been dedicated, so supportive to me over the years. And as my son said, it was 56 years yesterday that we celebrated our anniversary. But believe me, in all the years that I've been in politics, and that's over 40, and 33, 34 on the council, and the different committees that I was able to work with and to help fundraise for the needy in our community. My wife, there was many, many nights that I was late for dinner, you know how that is. And of course, women really don't like that. But she's, and I'd end up, warming it up myself. But at any rate, really, she's been very dedicated, and honestly, that's what made this day possible. And I want to thank her very much for her support. I really like to ask her to stand up. I don't know if she will or not. Helen, would you like to stand up? Thank you very much. That's the love of my life, and of course, the 56 years is a long time, but it doesn't seem it, believe me, especially when you're doing things right. Of course, when you're not home some nights, until you get home, then you find out. But anyway, I want to thank you very much. Thank my whole family, all my children, my grandsons, and my son said, I have 2 sons, one that came down, our grandsons, them from Boston College, Michael sitting here, and then Nicholas, Michael and Nicholas flew in from Michigan, who's studying as a doctor of cancer oncology out in Michigan. So he flew out here to see me, and also Nicholas. And then my other grandchildren from Woodbury are here. Well, he's called Pepper. He's here somewhere. But anyway, him and his mother and father, Corey, and my son John, my daughter Ann, with her children, Jacqueline and Alex, and Matt. Yeah, I can't forget you. You were the speaker. Matt and Pam and their two boys. I don't think I forgot anybody. And of course, all my nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews that came here today to support me. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and God bless, and congratulations to the other recipients. Thank you very much.
Okay, each one of our recipients today will be taking home a version of the bronze plaque that will be hanging in City Hall, and the 4 bronze plaques are behind me to the right.
Thank you. To be part of CETA.
Okay, he may have put the 57th anniversary in jeopardy today, we're not sure. Our next recipient is another person known around town who really does not need any introduction. She is a very dear person and a very good friend, and it is my honor today to first call upon Beverly Miller for the presentation to Rhudean S. Raye in the category of community service.
Hello. As you've just heard, my name is Beverly Miller, and Rhudean and I have been friends for over 40 years. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Rhudean that I know. Rhudean was raised by a single mom in South Carolina. At that time, the South was racially charged, and it wasn't easy for a black girl to aspire to anything beyond minimum wage labor. But even though money was a problem, dreams weren't. Her mom instilled in Rhudean the dream for a higher education. It was a struggle, but eventually Rhudean made it to college, where she majored in education. After college, she moved to New York, where she trained to be a nurse. She finally came to Meriden, where she worked at 2 jobs, a teacher by day and a nurse by night. She saved and bought a house here and raised her 2 sons, Charles and James. Rhudean wanted to find a way to help students who, like herself, wanted to go to college but were financially wanting. She hit on the idea of a breakfast fundraiser. That idea has grown to a 26-year success story. Approximately $104,000 has gone to help our local youth to start their journey to a brighter future, all thanks to Rhudean's efforts. Does she badger you for a donation? Absolutely. Does she push breakfast tickets? Yes. Does she strong-arm you? Sure. But beneath it all, Rhudean is compassionate, caring, generous, loyal, and a doer. She has dedicated her retirement years to making Meriden a better place for you to raise your family. For all these reasons, she deserves to be recognized by the Meriden Hall of Fame. So now I'd like to present to you Rhudean Raye, my friend.
I would like to start by thanking the committee and all of you for selecting me to be inducted into the Meriden Hall of Fame. After being notified of my selection, I took some time to look and read the plaques on the past inductees. I was struck by their accomplishments, their work ethic, and their drive to succeed. And now I will be allowed to join them. I have always had a deep-rooted belief that education is the door to a successful future. But that education comes at an ever-increasing price tag, especially in today's economy. Getting to college may seem like a pipe dream, an impossibility. I have tried to make that dream come true by deserving high school seniors regardless of their race, color, or creed. This January will be the 27th Martin Luther King Albert Owens Scholarship Breakfast. We will again try to help 4 students start on their journey toward a higher education. But as always, the success of the breakfast and the future of these students rest in the hands of the citizens of Meriden who financially support our efforts. So I hope to see you all in January. Thank you again for the honor of selecting me to the Meriden Hall of Fame. God bless you all. God bless Meriden, and God bless America.
And on behalf of the Meriden Hall of Fame Association, we'd like to congratulate you and present you with this plaque, which is a replica of the plaque that will be in City Hall. Yeah, but believe me, that was the soft sell. Next in the category of performing arts is Rob Hyman, and to present the award to him is his brother, Dr. David Hyman.
I better not touch this thing. Good afternoon. Before I introduce Rob, I would just like to congratulate all of the inductees into the Meriden Hall of Fame. As I was looking over the names and the accomplishments, I was struck by the diversity and wide range of talents that each represents, and could not help but wonder how varied their paths must have been that led to each of their achievements. It's really a testimony to Meriden's greatness. Congratulations to you all. For Rob, although the path had yet to be forged, his destination was determined at an early age. From day one, he had musical talent. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. Nobody else in the immediate family has any musical ability. And I, for one, the closest thing I can do to play a musical instrument is an iPod. But somehow he got it, and I'm not sure, but I'm just glad he did. Family lore has it that at the age of 3, he was playing the theme song to Davy Crockett on the piano. And Mom and Dad, quickly recognizing his potential, started him on piano lessons, and he just blossomed, quickly outgrowing his teachers. In the early 60s, in spite of his classical training, he went from Beethoven to Beatles, and the journey began. It started out with a few friends practicing in our garage, much to our neighbors' regret. His first band, with the mischievous name The Trolls, performed at school dances right across the street from here at the cafeteria at the old Washington Middle School. I think this first taste of performing sealed the deal for Rob. He was going to be a rock star when he grew up. Of course, so was every other kid of that generation. Our parents, well, I'm sure they were all for the idea too. High school was different then. There were dress codes, no jeans were allowed, sideburns were only allowed down to the middle of the ear, hair couldn't touch the ear or the eyebrow, and no tight pants. In fact, if you couldn't drop a golf ball down your pants, you could be sent home. Well, when you're a member of the Trolls, or the Proteins, or the Backdoor Blues, or any of the other bands that Rob was involved with, it was more than just the music. It was the whole event. You had to live the part. Needless to say, Rob spent a good deal of his high school career in the vice principal's office. But when he graduated, first in his classmates saw his potential, even if the vice principal didn't, and they voted him most likely to succeed. Performances at both high schools ultimately led to his first critically acclaimed success. He and his friends won the coveted Battle of the Bands at the bandshell at Hubbard Park. Having made his mark in Meriden, Rob left for Philadelphia to attend the University of Pennsylvania. It didn't take long for him to establish his musical footing in college. He formed new and better bands with like-minded Penn students, many of whom he still works with today. But success in Philadelphia was certainly more difficult to achieve. You have to pay your dues in the musical industry. That means carrying your own equipment, setting it up, breaking it down, and all for the privilege of working late nights in smoky clubs for little money. It means working for tips in piano bars at night while stocking shelves in a grocery store by day to make ends meet. But Rob's perseverance finally paid off. In a nod to his classical roots, he formed Baby Grand and landed his first recording contract. It was a critical, if not commercial, success, but it established his Philadelphia reputation so that when he formed the Hooters a couple of years later, he was well received. Hubbard Park may have been the culmination of Rob's Meriden musical experience, but it was an invitation to perform at another outdoor venue that launched Rob and the Hooters onto the national and international scene. That was Live Aid. This international event took place at JFK Stadium in Philadelphia. It was attended by 100,000 people and watched in some 150 countries around the world, with an estimated global audience of just under 2 billion people. Just a few more than Hubbard Park. I was there, and I can tell you it was truly an awesome event. And the rest, as they say, is history. Rob was established as an international artist, and the Hooters were climbing the charts. Their songs were listed on the top 10, their albums went platinum, and they became MTV video stars. Their concerts were well received by audiences all across the US, as well as Australia, Europe, and Asia. Even mom and dad were won over. In fact, in their late 70s, maybe even early 80s, they traveled with the band through Europe and earned the distinction as the world's oldest groupies. When he wasn't touring with the band, Rob collaborated with a number of well-known musicians, including Mick Jagger, Ricky Martin, Carole King, Bette Midler, and the list goes on, even to today. His songwriting found its way into the theater and motion pictures, but he is perhaps best known for his work with Cyndi Lauper, with whom he co-wrote the modern classic Time After Time, which earned him a Grammy nomination and sealed his reputation as an international songwriter and musician. But in spite of the success, the fame never went to his head. He hasn't forgotten the values our parents instilled in us as kids. In our family, if you were fortunate enough to be successful, you gave back. And Rob has done this in the way he knows best, by performing. Whether it's for a large concert for Amnesty International, a benefit for breast cancer awareness, or a small fundraiser to raise money so that a 2-year-old girl could get a bone marrow transplant, Rob used his talent and notoriety for good cause. He also hasn't forgotten his roots. Every month or so, he comes home, back to spend a day or two with mom, and to visit my family and me. I guess as they say, you can take the boy out of Meriden, you can even send him around the world, but you can never take Meriden out of the boy. So I suppose it's fitting that when he was asked to perform at Meriden's bicentennial a few years ago, he returned home with the Hooters to give a concert at the place where it all started, the bandshell at Hubbard Park. Singer, songwriter, producer, arranger, musician, keyboardist. He has been known by many titles, but there is one word that I like to use when I think of Rob, maybe because it's the one word that only I can use, brother. I'd like to introduce my brother, Rob Hyman.
Thank you, David. Wow, that's a hard act to follow. I took some random notes. I'll do my best. This is quite the event and turnout, and if I omit somebody, especially who's here, I apologize. And though I have moved away pretty much from the age of 18 on, my roots are here in Meriden, and that's where the story begins and kind of ends in a way. Firstly, again, thanks to David, and I'd like to officially nominate him for induction into the Meriden Hall of Fame because, as many of you know, he's done probably a lot more than I have for the city, not to mention great dental care right across the street. So take advantage of that, and truly, you belong up here too, David. Thanks to John Hogarth, Mike Quinn, Mayor Rhodey, everyone associated with the Meriden Hall of Fame who nominated and selected me. It's really an honor. I'm very flattered. Unexpected, I must say, and I truly appreciate it. He mentioned some of the people I will thank as well. My bands and friends. It started with the Trolls. I was 13, and we did the CYO and the YMCA and any place we could play. Actually, our first job, I think, was somebody's party, and we got $20. And I thought, hey, this is for me. Again, much to my parents' dismay, they had other plans, basically becoming a doctor. Just wasn't meant to be. But David, you upheld that part of the bargain, so thanks. The bands were great. Proteins, Backdoor Blues. We did play one of our final shows before I went to school in Philadelphia at the Battle of the Bands, and that was quite an honor. Some of the members of those bands and friends, Gary Henry, who still is performing, with Gary Burr, Ed Parenti, one of our lead singers who lives over in Germany, Mike Giuffrida, try to read my writing here. Rob DeRosa, by the way, who wasn't in a band, but he's really supported me and the music, helped get us to play at the Bicentennial in '06, which was really a great honor, and it really made us come full circle to play again at Hubbard Park, just as I had remembered it. Henry Chahemsik, I think was his name. Now, he was our bus driver, but he was also a disc jockey, only in Meriden, and he had a local radio show. And I remember we did a live radio broadcast from what was the Holiday Inn. Is it now the Comfort Inn? Yes. And anyway, bus driver slash DJ. So anyway, pretty good. I don't know where he is. Steve Lloyd, who is here and has just been an incredible spirit friend. We've touched base over the years. He attended many of those spontaneous rehearsals at our house and the gigs we used to play. Michael Barron, my best friend growing up and neighbor across the street. Larry Kenzier, Mike Giuffrida, we played together. Although he went to Platt, I believe, we were still buddies. Was that East Side, West Side? We were representing Maloney, but to my West Side friends, and I had a number of them. And then, of course, my teachers. We did start at an early age, and I know my mom, she had trouble remembering his name, but I never did. His name was Mr. Catalano, because it rhymed with piano. And I don't know where he is, I'm sorry to say, but he used to come to our house and kind of rap the knuckles and make me play scales, which I pretty much hated. But I stayed with it. Jane Goodstein, we got a little deeper into the piano up on East Main Street. And then most importantly, a woman moved into our neighborhood on Overlook Drive. Her name was Ellie Zimmerman, and she moved from Austria, and that was like Mars to us. I mean, she came, and we used to call her the Mademoiselle. She was very flamboyant, very theatrical, and I would walk across the street. She had 2 grand pianos in her living room, and we would play together, and she opened up my eyes to incredible music, past and present, futuristic. She knew it all, and I think she kind of set me on a path that, although it wasn't classical for me, just the work ethic, and she was a concert pianist herself, and Ellie will be missed. She passed away a few years ago, and she and her family were great friends of ours. I think those are my teachers. Let's get to my family, first and foremost. My mom, Mickey, is here and has put up with a lot, mostly positive, And of course, in the last number of years, very positive, and she was always supportive. Her sister, my Aunt Vivian, who recently moved up to Wallingford with my mom from the DC area. Welcome to Meriden and Wallingford, Viv. It's been about a year. Incredible artists, both of them, and just really great painters, artistic people, and I think that's probably where the music bug came from. My cousin Peter is here, Peter Hyman, and you may remember Hyman's clothing store, and Mike mentioned that was a lot of great time was spent down in there. Ellie Rhudean is here, a neighbor. She grew up down the street, what we used to call the hill, the top of the hill, Overlook Drive. Her house is still there, and it was the big old farmhouse among all the other, the more modern homes. And that was the place to hang. I think, they had secret passageways, and it was almost haunted to us when we were kids. That was, you and your family were so generous. I think they owned a farm when we first moved up there, and it was just open farmland. And I remember working down in the barn, and just kind of, it's changed a lot. But Ellie, great to see you. She came from Vermont, and it's terrific. We're kind of like a second family to us. My son Matthew is here, came in from New York City. Thank you, Matt. Better late than never, missed first train, but you're here. My wife Sally and other son Nicholas are not here. He is a senior in high school, and they're deep in the college search, and so they're back in the Philadelphia area, hopefully attending a seminar for one of the schools that he's trying to get into as we all go through that crazy time. But I wish they were here, but they're here in spirit. And also, more importantly in spirit, our father Harold and my sister Carol. We think of you every day. So basically, I was born and raised in Meriden in 1950 through 68. So I kind of spent the formative years. It was a great place to grow up, and without boring you too much, just a lot of details I remember from Meriden since I moved away. And obviously being here at Curtis, I remember just being up on that second floor looking through the kids' libraries for Hardy Boys books. My teachers, some of whom are here today as well, some of my classmates, went through high school here. Jimmy Azzolina's music store, I don't know if anybody remembers that, but bought my first amp, first guitar, first organ, and just spent hours drooling at the instruments, the Palace and Capitol movie theaters, where I did get ejected one day for having a pea shooter. I can still see the manager. He had that little mustache that goes down and over. Yeah, oh man, he was nasty. Didn't like me, pea shooters, hey, come on. Anyway, Fucci's barber shop down by the railroad tracks, Kresge's, it was a great place to grow up. I mean, it's changed a lot, and obviously it's very nostalgic for me to come back, but I remember those things vividly. And most importantly was the music scene, as David mentioned. I grew up into the late 60s, and what a time to be in high school, and everybody had a band. We saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and the next day we started a band. I mean, there were so many, you couldn't keep track of it. And our garage was the home of our garage band, so thanks, Mom, for putting up with that. And actually, they never gave us a hassle. I mean, maybe the neighbors did, but we rehearsed pretty much most of the time in our garage. And most of the neighbors were pretty good about that. So just to sum up, there's so many experiences that I could cover, but those are some of the basics. And they say, it's a cliche, you can't go home again, but you really can, and I do often. Part of it is the fact that David has stayed and lived in the house that we literally grew up in since the 50s. Has done some renovations to it and has made it a palace, but it still is our home on top of the hill. So you can go home again, and I do often, and I enjoy coming up, especially to see him and Mom and now Viv. And though I, went to school elsewhere and kind of moved away and have lived in the Philadelphia area for a number of years and traveled, as David mentioned, I always will consider this my home. It's great to be back, and thanks for this honor, everybody. Appreciate it.
And Rob, again, on behalf of the Meriden Hall of Fame Association, congratulations, and this is your take-home version of the plaque.
Terrific, thank you.
One of my responsibilities on the Housing Authority, boy, there was a slip, on the Hall of, you've been on a few boards and they all start to run together in one way or the other. One of my responsibilities on the Hall of Fame board is to serve on the nominating committee. And when we were going through the submissions this year, our next recipient's name was one of the packets that was submitted. And my first thought was, well, this will be easy. He's got to already be in. I mean, he already has a park named after him, so I don't think we need to consider this any further. But we looked at the list, and we were all surprised that Dr. Giuffrida had not previously been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I am very happy that we are rectifying that today. And I would like to call on his daughter, Lynn Giuffrida, for the presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm not much of a public speaker, so bear with me. My father was Dr. Francis Giuffrida, known to his friends as Frank. He was born in Middletown in 1910. He went to Wesleyan University, where he competed on the swim team and set records in the breaststroke. Summers he spent at Hammonasset State Park as a lifeguard. Those were the days when men wore two pieces. So all the pictures, he's got the jersey top and the shorts. It was at Hammonasset that he met my mother, Ruth Bailey. She lived in Meriden. After my father graduated from Wesleyan, he went on to Tufts University School of Medicine in Boston, and he graduated in 1933. During the summer of 1941, he had reason to, well, I guess everyone had reason to believe that the United States might be entering the war, and he decided to enlist in the Navy. He was assigned to the Marines and spent time in both the Pacific and the Atlantic theaters of war. When he left the Navy, he was awarded the level of captain. When discharged, he came to Meriden in 1947 and started practice with the Colony Medical Group. Remember, well, looking around, I think so many of you may never have known my father because you look so young. But Colony Medical Group was up on a hill on Colony Street, and you had to go up a very steep series of stairs to get there. I always thought you'd have a heart attack and need a doctor by the time you got up there. But anyway, over the years, my father was a member of the New Haven County Medical Association, the Meriden-Wallingford Medical Society, and spent a term as president. He was a diplomate of the American Board of Surgery, fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and for 6 years was the director of surgery at the Meriden Hospital. And it was the Meriden Hospital in those days, not the Meriden-Wallingford Hospital. Arguably, he had one of the largest practices in Meriden. He was a skilled surgeon and a compassionate, caring physician who worked tirelessly to accommodate the health needs of Meriden. And he was, if nothing else, a hard worker. He was passionate about whatever he did, whether it was caring for his patients, tending to his vegetable garden and his flower gardens on Wednesday and Saturday afternoons, or playing paddle racket at the Y after his office hours every day at the, at the YMCA. He loved his paddle racket. He not only worked hard, he was always available. He always answered the phone. He always came when he was needed. He had great faith in Meriden and was involved in many civic activities. I could list them, but I'm not going to take your time to do all of that, but I'd like to talk about two of those activities. The first is the Boy Scouts. As a youth, my father was a Eagle Scout, and as an adult, he spent 8 years as president of the Central Council of Boy Scouts. He was also a representative of the National Council of Boy Scouts of America. His other activity that I wanted to speak to is his concern for youth of this town. He was the attending physician for all home football games for Meriden High, Maloney High, and Platt High Schools. At the Thanksgiving game, Maloney versus Platt, he would spend half the game on one bench and half on the other. Now, my sisters and I, we were going to Maloney, we kind of thought he should have spent the entire time on the Maloney bench, but he didn't. In March of 1966, my father was operated on for colon cancer. 9 months later, he died, 2 days after his 56th birthday. He had a short life. He only practiced medicine for 19 years, but he did a lot and he accomplished a lot, and he touched so many people during that short time. After his death, the Rotary, the YMCA, and the Boy Scouts combined to establish the Dr. Francis Giuffrida Good Citizenship and Good Sportsmanship Award at both the Platt and Maloney High Schools. The city of Meriden also named the former Bradley Hubbard Reservoir property as the Giuffrida Park in his memory. Now, my sisters are with me today. Of course, there's very few of us in the family left, but I'd like my sisters to come up, please. Jayzie Becker and Leslie Giuffrida, and all three of us would like to accept the award.
On behalf of the Meriden Hall of Fame Association, congratulations.
Thank you. Okay.
If Rhudean and Matt and Rob could please come up and join me. We have with us today Robert Michalek, who is the district director from Congressman Murphy's office, and he would like to make a presentation to each of you.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you for having me here today and allowing me to say a few words on behalf of Congressman Murphy. First of all, let me pass along the regrets of the congressman. Unfortunately, he had a prior commitment this afternoon and couldn't be here himself, but he does send his congratulations to all of today's inductees and his regards to all of you who have gathered here today in support of them. You know, I think it was Winston Churchill who once said, "You don't just find a life worth living, you need to make a life worth living." And I think with these four inductees here today, you have examples of people who truly have made their lives worth living. Whether you consider their contributions to medicine, to community service, to government and politics, or to the performing arts, you have four people who truly we should all strive to emulate and who we should all admire. That being said, although the congressman couldn't be here today, he did give me a number of citations and certificates to provide to the recipients here today. I won't read them all to you because they are fairly similar, but if you'll indulge me for a second, I'd like to at least read the one to my friend and colleague, Matty Dominello. It is a certificate of special recognition presented to Matthew C. Dominello, Sr. Upon your induction to the Meriden Hall of Fame, through hard work and dedication to your community, you have become a role model to all. Your generosity and service to your friends and neighbors is to be admired and commended. And it's signed Christopher S. Murphy, Member of Congress, and dated the 16th day of October, 2011. Congratulations to you, Matty, to all the recipients, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. In closing, I have a few remarks that I'd like to make. At each of your seats, and there are other copies available around the room, we have the induction program for today's ceremony. Inside the induction program, you'll find three documents. First is an advertising sheet. We had several individuals and companies advertise and support the Hall of Fame this year, and we'd like to thank each of them for doing that. And you will also find a Hall of Fame nomination form and our Hall of Fame nomination guidelines. And here's where I'll do my Rhudean Raye impersonation and do the soft sell. Induction into the Meriden Hall of Fame is done through an election process. And how the ballot is put together is based upon the nomination forms that are submitted each year. There are many deserving people who either have not been nominated or have been nominated so far in the past that their nominations are no longer current with the Hall of Fame. We would encourage you to nominate anyone who you feel is deserving of this honor, as the four we have today most certainly are. In order to be eligible to vote on the nominations on the ballot each year, you must be a member of the Hall of Fame Association, and membership forms are also available, and we would encourage you to join as well, and that way you can vote and have a say on who becomes a member of our Hall of Fame. And that concludes my soft sell. I also noticed as the program was proceeding that House Speaker Christopher Donovan has joined us, and we'd like to thank him for being here as well. And I would be remiss if I did not introduce and acknowledge my colleagues on the Board of Directors. First, our President, John Hogarth. Our Secretary, Gail Edgington, who I don't think was able to join us today. Our Treasurer, George Esposito. And our board members, Trudy Magnolia, Vinnie Muley, Dave Sweedock, Carol Hart, Don Antonio, Jay Adamski, Frank Lewandowski, and Joe Zajac, and if we could give them all a round of applause. And finally, I would like to call on the Reverend Dr. John Clark for our benediction.
Let us pray. O God, dismiss us with your blessing and an abiding sense of your presence. Keep alive with us all of which this occasion has brought us together: concern for human need, devotion to human freedom, discipline in human toil, and a caring heart. Your presence is inescapable, so let us see you in all that is human. Your purposes are inevitable, so may we find you in our need for one another. Your love is unending, so grant us the grace of grateful hearts. As you have blessed us on this occasion, let us be a blessing for every occasion. Amen.
And because I know I missed them, two other board members, Bob Conroy and Irene Massey, and Irene also has a distinction of being a past inductee to the Hall of Fame. And before we conclude, if there are any other past inductees or family members of past inductees, if they would stand for recognition also. And this brings our program to a conclusion. On behalf of the Meriden Hall of Fame Association, I would like to thank you all for coming out today, and again offer our congratulations to the inductees and their family and friends. And we ask that you all stay and join us for refreshments, which are over to my right. Thank you.